Hello students, today we are going to start unit 2, that is forms of business organization. As you all know that in our daily life we have seen many type of businesses. So we are here today discuss the various types of business organizations like sole proprietorship where single seller is there, then joint Hindu family business, partnership, cooperative society, company, private or public. So we'll take them one by one. Today we will discuss only about sole proprietorship, that is the form of business organization, how it is formed and how it will run by the proprietor or the owner, and what are the terms and conditions or situations with the sole proprietor. So let's start. First of all, the word sole means only. Here you can write only. And proprietor means owner. So sole proprietor is the only or single owner of the business. Like you have seen in the market, the shopkeepers are there. So generally they are of this form, means they are sole proprietor. The sole proprietor has several features, like first one is formation and closure. Such type of business is very easy to form, or we can say start. We can anytime start such type of business, and limited capital is required for starting such business, depend on the nature, size and scale of the business. And it is also very easy to close because there are no restriction on the sole proprietor and there are no licensing requirement in most of the businesses. So whenever we want to start such type of business, we can start. What we require is, suppose we are working in the form of sole proprietor, or we want to start a business of a sole proprietor. First of all, we must have a showroom or a shop and a godown. Then whatever we want to sell, we can buy it from the wholesaler and start selling. So generally, there is no legal restriction on starting such type of business. And in certain businesses, we have to take the license and permission from the government. Like in case we want to start the business of petrol pump, then license is required and many formalities are also required. And investment is also much bigger than a general store owner or retailer. Similarly, if you want to sell the arms or guns, then also he must have a license to sell them. In case of gas agency, again he has to apply for the license and he have to comply with all the rules and regulation of the government. But in most of cases, the licensing system is now abolished. It is restricted to only few one. So we can start our business easily, and whenever we want to close it, shut it down for permanently, then we can close it also. There is also no restriction. Now next point is liability. It is very important point. Liability here means the owner is liable for the business dues. Suppose he has taken the credit from the suppliers, then he has to pay the dues timely. If he fails to do such, then his personal assets will be used for paying off the debt. So we can take a help of example. First of all, you must know that liability of a sole proprietor is unlimited. his liability is unlimited. And what does the unlimited term means? Suppose X is a sole proprietor. He has his establishment or shop, and Y is supplier. Y is supplier or wholesaler, we can say. X has purchased rupees worth 1 lakh from Y, and now he sell it to the customers on credit. And all his customers are not paying or not returning the money, and Y is asking for money. So Y filed a case in the court, and the court asked X to pay the amount due to Y. If X has cash, he can pay it. If he doesn't have any cash and any goods, then he will have to firstly sell off his business. His whole shop or godown will be sold. If the business establishment, suppose, was sold for 50,000 or say 60,000, then 40,000 are remaining. Balance is 40,000, and he has no assets in the business to pay off Mr. Y. Then how he will pay it? He will sell his home. Suppose he has a home, generally all have, and this home will be sold off to Mr. Y for 40,000. Then he will be paid fully. So what I want to say is that the liability of sole proprietor is unlimited. If certain dues are unpaid, then firstly he has to pay from his business. If business is not sufficient to pay off the debts, then he will have to sell its personal property, and then pay off the creditors. So that's why it is unlimited liability. Now moving on to the next feature, that is sole risk bearer and profit recipient. As the name of the owner is sole proprietor, means single owner. If he is a single owner, then the whole risk will be borne by him. Sole risk bearer. He will take on all the risk and as well as the profit. Whatever profit the business will generate, he will receive that profit. If it is a loss, then he will also be borne by him. Next point is control. So he has absolute, or we can say full control over the business, because there are no partners in the business. He can easily control the business without consulting anyone else. There is no foundation upon him to consult others, to take permission, nothing. He just has to take his own decisions. So the sole proprietor have full control over the business. Next point is also very important, no separate entity. So entity here means you can write identity. Separate entity here means sometime in many businesses, the businessman is treated as a separate person and his business is treated as a separate person. But in case of sole proprietor, we have already seen in this example that for paying the dues of business to Mr. Y, X has sold his house property. So, what we can infer from it that in sole proprietorship, the personal property or the business are treated as same. It is not treated as a different identity. If we are taking an example of a company, then it is totally different. Every person or every member of a company has separate identity and their personal assets will not be used for paying the debts of business. But here, the sole proprietor and his business has no separate identity. They are treated same. If business is not sufficient to pay the dues of creditors, then his personal property will be used. And last point is lack of business continuity. The life of sole proprietorship type of business or form of business is very short. It depends on the life of the sole proprietor. If sole proprietor dies, then his business may close down if his children are not running the business or not carrying forward it. In some cases, the business will continue if the next generation of family will continue the business. But generally, the business of sole proprietor is very unstable. It can close any time if the sole proprietor dies or go to jail. We can say imprisonment, insanity if his mental health is not proper, or bankruptcy if he is bankrupt or insolvent. So, in many cases, this type of business can be easily shut down or closed. So, these are the features. If you have any doubt regarding these features, you can ask me. Thank you, students.